You gave them every chance to win. If you look at this in slow motion, you can see Caitlin Clark clearly smiling in confusion, smiling in, did that really just happen? Smiling in, you sly W. And she says, she points at the other team, you gave them every chance to win. Oh, goodness gracious. Caitlin Clark, she's chomping at the bits to start talking to these referees during the game.
This time around, Sydney Colson and Caitlin Clark aren't holding back in the WNBA's latest conflagration. They've had enough of the league's absurd fixation with silencing its stars rather than defending them, the skewed officiating, and the double standards. What ought to have been a celebration of a valiant victory over Indiana Fever became a prime example of the WNBA's rapidly declining legitimacy.
This is kind of where everything started at with Sydney Colson. So this is the timeline here. Let me get this pulled up here. This is interesting. I didn't know she said all that today. Okay, this is interesting here. She started off last night by saying at a certain point in the league's existence, I'm going to need for Kelsey Mitchell to get the same whistle as each other stars. The way she gets assaulted is insane, actually. And I've considered roping my sister in it to have office purse charges.
It all began when Indiana defeated the Los Angeles Sparks in a thrilling 76-75 victory. Typically, a game like that would make everyone in the Fever locker room happy. However, the topic of discussion was not the victory. Players, spectators, and commentators were left shaking their heads in shock over yet another round of strange, biased officiating. Do you believe this issue will be cleaned up by the WNBA? Tell us in the comments section below. Come on.
Who paying you, ref? Who you betting on? And mind you, there was some problems going on with the shot clock throughout the game. But man, there is no way. Right at the end of the game, you should be on top of it. You telling me you're not paying attention to when some hands touch that ball? Come on, man. And then to reward them with the timeout, like, fam, that's crazy work. Look, Caitlin Clark, like, what is going on here? She's like, no. Look, Caitlin ready to run the floor, fam.
Let's go back to the first quarter. In addition to Caitlin Clark, Indiana's other scoring option, Kelsey Mitchell, made a strong drive to the hoop. She easily defeated her opponent before being grabbed and yanked mid-distance in front of the arena. Not gently bumped, yanked, or nudged. Even those in the nosebleeds last row could see the foul since it was so obvious. The referees were silent, but everyone was expecting the whistle. They accepted it as if the foul had never occurred. Despite his toughness, Mitchell managed to complete the layup, but the damage had already been done. Everything got crazy on the Fever bench.
There is one referee. We definitely have to check for betting slips for this guy right here. I think his name is like Agun Agazi, because it sure seemed like he did not want to let the Fever take away this win, making the last 1.9 seconds last almost 5 minutes. He was just like letting them call a reset timeout, and then he was like, no, it's a foul. But I think the worst part about that 1.9 seconds was when 0.4 seconds was left on the clock, and Kelsey Mitchell was at the free throw line. She was trying to miss on purpose because that takes time off of the clock, because if she would have made it in, they would have been able to inbound and possibly do a tip in. But this guy allowed a reset timeout. When do you allow a reset timeout with 0.4 seconds?
Caitlin Clark, who was sitting on the sidelines with an injury but was still focused on the game as usual, lost it at that point. She screamed, "Call it! Call it!" as she got to her feet and waved her arms at the refs. The tone was set by her enthusiasm. Then, incensed at the lack of a call, Lexi Hall also leaped to her feet. What actions did the referees take? Hall received a technical foul slap. Let me say it again. Nothing was awarded to the player who was fouled. The offending player was allowed to continue playing, and the one punished was the colleague who dared to express anger about the unfairness. I have no idea what constitutes rigging if it isn't it.
That's what everybody saw in that game. Like, it didn't really matter what was going on. We all knew what was happening. We all knew what was happening there. And the game was being given. The game was absolutely being given to the Sparks. They were giving the Sparks every single chance possible to go and win that game. Even though realistically, did they deserve to win that game? Hell no. Hell no. They did not. And I mean that. They did not deserve to win that game.
Not only the Fever were incensed, though. Sydney Colson, who was sidelined due to an ACL tear, watched from her living room because she had had enough. She picked up her phone and sent out one of the season's most popular tweets. I'll need Kelsey Mitchell to receive the same treatment as other stars at some point in the league's history. Actually, the way she is attacked is crazy, and I've thought of enlisting my sister to have her office file charges.
But Kelsey Mitchell's whistle last night was horrific. And Kelsey drove to the basket a lot. She is the type of person that just goes through a lot of defenders, and she wasn't getting a call. This really was not her game. She was not hitting it from the three whatsoever, but everyone is entitled to having a bad game here and there, and I think she was kind of due for one because of the tear that she's been on lately. Even Sid Colson took to Twitter to talk about it, saying, at a certain point in the league's existence, I'm gonna need Kelsey Mitchell to get the same whistle as other stars. The way she gets assaulted is insane, actually.
It wasn't a joke. Colson was expressing aloud what Fever supporters had been yelling for months. This goes beyond poor officiating. This is a methodical approach. Players from Indiana are being punished for merely voicing their displeasure by being mugged on the court. Colson's statements struck a chord right away because they were brimming with rage, sarcasm, and harsh honesty. Online, the tweet went viral, garnering hundreds of shares as followers all over the world expressed agreement. It was finally said. Naturally, Caitlin Clark had to add her voice. She gave the ideal response, brief, incisive, and sarcastic. Be careful, you will be penalized. It was all in 6 words. Clark is the best person to understand that this league does not accept criticism of its referees. The WNBA will come after you the moment you call it out, even if you are thrashed on the court, disregarded by referees, and sabotaged by phantom whistles. Clark wasn't being hyperbolic either. She was indicating an actual, unsightly track record.
Be careful, you're going to get fined. Then Sydney Colson said, I can't get no more fine. So Lynn Dunn stated, agree, I will help pay the fine. So that's what Lynn Dunn stated yesterday about the fines. And Caitlin Clark said, love it. Everyone listen to Lynn. So it's definitely a lot of exchange going back and forth there. That's crazy.
Ask Sophie Cunningham, please. She has turned to become the WNBA spokesperson for what occurs when you are honest about officiating. Cunningham has received 3 separate fines for his audacity in challenging the referees. Lip-syncing to a TikTok song that made fun of referees as being unintelligent and pointless was her first offense. Boom. $500 gone. She then had the audacity to call out inconsistencies on her own podcast. An additional $1,500 fine. Finally, she pointed out the obvious. Paige Beckers was being pampered by officials who raised the alarm each time they touched her, while Mitchell and other Fever guards were being compromised without any defense. She lost again because of her honesty.
I love Paige to death. Do not get me wrong. I think, I think she's a hell of a player and, would love to play with her one day. But those refs were giving her every freaking whistle last night. You literally couldn't touch her. Couldn't touch her. And that shit is so annoying to me. And if you're going to do that, then give it to our guards. I just hate the inconsistency.
When whistles are player focused, that's I think that's a huge problem. But then again, I don't know what sport that doesn't exist. But she's a rookie. She shouldn't get whistles as a rookie.
I'm completely devoted to Paige. Don't misunderstand me. Once more, I believe she is a wonderful player, and I want to play with her someday. But yesterday night, those references were giving her the runaround. As if you couldn't even touch her. Not allowed to touch her. And I find that really annoying. For example, offer it to our guards if you want to do it. I really detest the inconsistency. For example, I believe it's a major issue when whistles are player-focused. However, I'm not sure what sport doesn't exist, just like me. She's a newbie, though. As a rookie, she shouldn't receive whistles. Consider this message. Under Kathy Angelbert's leadership, the WNBA is not safeguarding its players. Fairness is not being given priority. Rather, it is discovering its own stars in quiet. In essence, they are operating a protection racket. Will strike your wallet if you don't accept whatever the referees give you. It's corrupt in addition to being embarrassing. Colson is aware of it as well. She delivered a gut punch in answer to Clark, encapsulating everything. I can't get much better. Translation: she has previously maxed out and received punishment from the system. It's no longer funny when players begin making jokes or half-jokes about getting bankrupt for merely requesting justice. It's a terrible indictment of a league that says it is expanding yet won't address its biggest issue: refereeing that is corrupt and inconsistent. Let's not fool ourselves, though. This goes beyond a single missed foul. There is a trend here. The Indiana Fever players have been subjected to excessive physicality, including being hacked, shoved, elbowed, and targeted throughout the season. The reaction has also been expected. Referees' silence, penalties for Fevers, and smirks from opponents who know they can get away with it. It's the complete opposite of how a league ought to handle its main attraction. Women's basketball standout Caitlin Clark is the face of a sport, packing arenas and setting television records. Nevertheless, it is she who is being abused without defense.
More people are talking about the refs than that. More people are talking about Caitlin Clark's reaction than that. And that just sums up how bad the refereeing is that we have seen an unbelievable game. We have seen an unbelievable game. A game where you're like, okay, maybe, just maybe, the Fever have not even just maybe, the Fever put themselves in a great position. They've put themselves in a great position to succeed. But now you're looking and you're like, what do people remember from this game? Caitlin Clark having to be restrained by her team.
There is more than one game or one poor whistle at the center of this controversy. The numbers are what matter. A pattern of prejudice in the league that has been allowed to continue unchecked for far too long is exposed by cold, hard facts. First, let's look at the top statistic. This season, Caitlin Clark alone has been responsible for 17% of all egregious fouls in the WNBA. Take a moment to consider that. Almost 1/5 of the league's most aggressive and outrageous fouls have been committed against a single rookie. Basketball isn't physical like that. That isn't the developing pains of a novice. That is competition disguised as targeted harassment. Additionally, Commissioner Kathy Engelbert and the referees are standing by whistling Dixie while acting as like nothing is wrong. It's not just Clark, either. Silent whistles have made Kelsey Mitchell their face. Mitchell has little to no protection from authorities and is regularly hacked, grabbed, pushed, and undercut, as Sydney Colson noted in her widely shared tweet. Mitchell repeatedly drove into the defense's teeth against the Sparks, but somehow, Justin was awarded 2 free throw attempts during the game. In the meantime, some league-protected stars are fired for simply flinching during a closeout. I'm not officiating that way. That is selective enforcement, and the game's credibility is being destroyed.
Please tell me y'all saw Caitlin Clark, the GOAT. Y'all saw Caitlin Clark crash out on the bald head ref last night. Please tell me y'all saw this. And she had Caitlin Clark spazzed on the referee last night. And I'm not mad about it. I see a lot of the haters talking about, oh, she be doing too much with the man. Mind your business. You are not in a GOAT's place, so stay out of a GOAT's business, okay? It's that simple. The officiating was awful last night. I don't know what was going on in that Los Angeles Sparks Indiana Fever game.
The league's response lacked accountability and reform. Instead, they have determined that finding someone who has the courage to speak up is the best approach to handle criticism. Preserve the referee's emotions. Punish the player for being honest. Sophie Cunningham summed it best when she remarked, I know I would make mistakes all the time if I were a referee, but what are you doing when it's a straightforward call that is made again in front of your face? It's not slander. That isn't disrespectful. That criticism is valid and fair. In response, the league withheld her salary as if she had stolen it from the team bus. A conspiracy theorist is not necessary to make this connection. This goes beyond a single game. The problem is systemic. Because of the culture the WNBA has established, Indiana, and especially Clark and Mitchell, are governed by completely different regulations. Throughout the season, Coach Stephanie White has warned about this, calling the officiating double standard egregious. What does she receive in exchange for pleading with the league for justice? The same penalty, a fine, as Cunningham. Thus, it seems that disclosing the truth about poor refereeing has become the most serious offense in the WNBA.
It was this dude right here. And from what I've seen, the man has been a part of controversial calls all year. He's been a part of it all year, man. Oh my goodness. What was his name? Jack, what you say? Agan Abazi. Agan Abazi, man. This man is diabolical work to the WNBA. He's betting. Somebody get the shame bell. Ding, ding, shame.